Also the video also. Yeah, okay. Good afternoon, friends. A warm welcome this afternoon on the seminar series conducted by National Research Program on Plantation Development and Open Seminar of CDS. Today we have a very interesting topic, mechanization and collectivization, emerging dynamics and implications for small tea growers and labor in Nilgiris, Tamil Nadu. The study was done under the auspices of NRPPD led by Professor Thiagu Ranganathan and supported by Dr. Sachu. The context is very well known. I mean, increasingly tea is shifting from the estate model to small tea growers. But small tea growers are vulnerable in many ways. One of the main issues being the inability to organize, have the sufficient bargaining power in the market, or at the same time having fragmented land holdings and also facing issues relating to productivity or yield as such because of various constraints that comes to smallholders as such. Now, one of the interventions that the state supports, also it can occur organically as well, but state supported is the small self-help groups that has been supported by the state. And within that, we have various forms of dynamics, who forms in a self-help group and how helpful or how impactful is self-help groups in kind of helping these small tea growers. That's a very important concern that we have. And this particular study that Professor Thiagu has led looks into this particular issue with regard to how formations of self-help groups especially has been helpful in the case of small tea growers towards mechanization, as well as other related concerns also. Professor Thiagu has, as all of us know, is a known name in the area of agriculture, and he has been doing substantial work in other areas as well, looking at cotton and other issues, and has published also in the area of tea also, right? Dr. Sachu is postdoc in this area, working with the National Research Program on Plantation Development. Welcome, both of you. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. Thank you, Professor Vinod. This is a project that has taken a long time in getting completed. It's more than a number of months it took is more than number of audience online, offline put together. Maybe let me leave it at that. But it's also COVID came in between, and we were about to start the survey, it got stuck, and then data collection started. Then again there was some stuck and so on. But I think over time, in between, we started looking at history of tea cultivation in India, and particularly how small tea growers emerged, and that hopefully has given us a better perspective on what we find in these primary surveys. So the way we will talk about this presentation, for those who are not initiated to tea, I'll spend a bit more time in the beginning on why these research questions are important, in the way how small tea growers had emerged, and also the context in which the question of mechanization and collectivization becomes significant. And then we'll talk about the findings from the primary survey. I'll talk a bit on what has this SSG membership done to tea cultivators, and then mechanization is the new emerging trend. So what has happened with mechanization and implications of it. In some sense, it's a microcosm of a stunted structural transformation which we observe all over the country. So there is elements of that we will observe in this particular area. So to think of small tea growers, the broad global perspective is that tea, as we know, we always associate with plantations, and typically we think tea is produced in big plantation with labor staying in the plantations and so on. And That reason for that primarily is that there is this temporal specificity aspect. The idea that the green leaves once plucked from the tea garden has to be put into processing within a span of a day. So that means that typically it's better off to vertically integrate your production of leaves and processing of tea, and that's where all over world we see plantations to these temporally specific commodities. Something similar we see with sugar and so on. And there is this fear that we typically have is that there is going to be vertical integration of all crop production, right? So if say the big companies coming in and taking over production is what is the typical fear. But what is happening with tea is the reverse. Now, usually it was the plantations, vertically integrated, who were producing tea. Now, slowly and steadily, all over the world, it is being produced by small growers, and production and processing is getting decoupled. So, this fact, so where the processing is by small independent players and production is by small independent growers. And this is happening all over the world. And STGs, that is small tea growers, these are the ones who produce the leaf in this value chain. They produce about 65% of tea in the world. And in certain countries, like Sri Lanka, they produce 95% of tea. Or so the 95% of tea that gets produced gets sourced by the green leaf players who are just holding 1 hectare or so. So it is a very interesting commodity where usual anticipation of agriculture doesn't work in this case. So this is typically agro-industry, which is becoming more farming. So in India too, this is a trend we are seeing. And one of the things that paved way for this trend is this simple looking machine, a sliding block CTC machine. So this is the machine which is very cheap, and factories can be set which can process the green leaves. So with this coming up of these machines accelerated this decoupling of tea leaf production and tea production. And around 1970s is when this tea comes in, and the domestic demand also goes up, and there is also export demand. For some reason, this tea was very famous, is still famous in the erstwhile USSR. And I think we exported Raj Kapoor movies and this CTC tea to USSR. They were very fond of these things. So currently, after that 1970s or so, we have these small tea growers who have only 33% of the land. They produce 54% of the tea in the country. So 1/3 of land they own, and they are producing more than half the tea. So that is, they are also not just small, they are highly efficient and much more efficient than these large estates and plantations, which have become a dead weight in some ways. And so in these things, within South India, if we see STGs, the area is about 20%, and the production of tea is 16% of the STG teas, that is small tea growers. And Tamil Nadu within South India has the 86% of small tea growers area, and 92% of small tea growers production happens in Tamil Nadu. So if we say small tea growers, it's predominantly Tamil Nadu, and almost 100% is in this place called as Nilgiris district. So if we look at Nilgiris, they begin this kind of emergence in 1920s. There are some minor beginnings, and 1920s and 1933, when there are export quotas, there are some minor beginnings of STGs. But as I mentioned, that CTC machine had to come to accelerate this production, this decoupling. That time the decoupling was with much costlier machines, so they didn't become big. So starting from about 1970 sometime, 1977, tea board gets into cooperative societies, and then the factories that process these tea leaves are called as bought leaf factories. So these bought leaf factories start emerging, which helps this independent grower production. So around 70s is when STGs start becoming big in this area, Nilgiris area. So basically the way tea is produced now. And again, initially I mentioned vertical integration is not happening. That's not completely true. There is certain level of vertical integration that happens with companies like Unilever and Tata Beverages, where they are integrating not just cultivation and processing, blending, packaging, marketing, and branding. So that is still there. And there are these plantations which is only cultivation of leaves and processing. And these small tea growers are the ones who produce only leaves, and bought leaf factories process the leaves. So we are going to primarily focus on these small tea growers and think about what has been happening to them. And one of the things that is very critical to understand these small tea growers is the arrival of a crisis. And not things have been rosy over the last 50 years. 80s is the time when there is this huge shift towards tea leaf production from other crops. So the small tea growers were producing potatoes and carrot and beans. They started moving to tea, and there is a lot of tea production in the region. And with that, and the price response, as I mentioned, the USSR price hike, Iran, many export countries were there, because of which prices started going up. But this oversupply and the disintegration of USSR meant the prices started falling steeply around 1998. And that's a important crisis that we have to keep in mind. So it's at that time, the green leaf prices, which were like 12 rupees a kg, went down to 6 rupees a kg, and some of them went to 2 rupees a kg and 3 rupees a kg. So at this time, and this crisis was persisting for not just till 2002, still beyond. So this is something from 2005, an interview conducted, and it is cited in another book. I'm just quoting them. So Nanjundan is aged in his 50s and lives in the village with his wife, 2 sons, and 1 daughter-in-law and 1 grandson. He has 2 daughters, both of whom are married. He owns 1.5 hectare of land, of which 1 hectare is planted to tea, and other 0.5 hectare is planted to vegetables. He introduced tea to his land 15 years ago, encouraged by the crop diversification scheme. Since the onset of crisis, he has been receiving very low prices, rupees 2 per kg or rupees 3 per kg on average. His village is remote with no local factory. He is at mercy of local leaf agents who can bid down prices from desperate smallholders. With little incentive to comply with good practice, Nanjundan uses sickle plucking on his tea and plucks only once every 2 months. This generates a very low annual yield of around 2000 kg of green leaf per hectare, or around 333 kg per plucking cycle. The coarse leaf plucking is done in 1 day's work, and he spends about 750 rupees. So if he gets 2 kilos, he ends up losing money, but if he gets 3, he makes a gain of rupees 250, a paltry recompense for 2 months of tea growth. Essentially, at prevailing prices, tea cultivation makes an infinitesimal addition to his material livelihood. He has reverted to a semi-subsistence lifestyle, feeding his family on homegrown foods plus access to highly subsidized food security-based PDS. So, and this is not a story of one person. When the prices crashed, there were many who were going through this thing. And there were protests, and there were some measures taken by the state at that time. And we are going to talk about those measures. So 3 broad measures that were taken by the state. One was the improvement of quality. Quality of leaves matter. So there is a certain period within which leaves have to be plucked, and if you pluck later, then the quality of leaves will be poor, which means tea quality will be poor. Then you don't get prices for tea, which means you don't get prices for tea leaves. So there were improvements, and one of the things is called the quality upgradation program, which helps some villages to get better prices over time. But also there was some kind of more immediate crisis till the quality improved and things had to change. So at that time, the tea board and the state released this tea marketing control order, which basically set a price sharing formula. Because the idea is, many times the factories might have got good prices for tea, but those prices were not being passed to the growers. So to make sure that certain price is passed to the growers, so they set up something called as price sharing formula, which prices were set by a district green leaf price monitoring committee. So this committee will say if tea is sold at 100 rupees, a certain amount of this 100 rupees should go to the leaf growers. So this is a formula that comes from other countries, Sri Lanka and Kenya. Sri Lanka gives out of 100 rupees, 68 rupees goes to the growers. And Kenya says 75 goes to the growers. In India, initially we started with 60 and then we made it 65. So that means if the auction price is 100 rupees, the growers should get 60 rupees per kilo of tea, but 4 kilos of leaves make 1 kilo of tea. So 4 kilos of leaves should get 60 rupees. So kilo should be not less than 15 rupees. So this is how prices are set. The previous month price is then set, and based on that, the price of next month's price is set by a committee. And because of the colonial legacy and other things where the tea board has details of everything sold in auction, so all prices are monitored, and this is how prices are set. So this is again a response coming after the crisis. And so this in terms of quality, this is something, this kept on going in quality improvement. So they said this sickle, particularly using sickle is not yielding good quality, so then stop using sickles, and tea board worked a lot to get this quality thing right, and also this share in terms of fairness right. So the third thing that started around that time is this idea of collectivization. So if there could be collectivization, some transaction costs could be minimized. So they started with this thing called as STG around 2006-07. So in this, the idea is that the tea growers form a collective, and they can get certain things as a collective. They can get certain things from the tea board. So they sometimes, at some point, they were also giving a 7 lakh revolving fund. Then they could get weighing scale, they could get plastic crates for carriage of green leaf, they could get nylon bags for transport of green leaf, they could get pruning machine, mechanical harvester, power sprayers, all subsidized at a certain proportion if they form a small tea grower self-help group. And again, sometimes the number, based on the number of members, they are referred to as self-help groups or societies or farmer-producer organization. So this scheme is another thing where the idea was that the bargaining power with the bought leaf factories could be maintained by such collectivization. So post the crisis, these three interventions have been quality upgradation, district price sharing formula, and SHG have been initiated by the state. So this is the context. So in this context, what we are trying to see is what is the economics of tea cultivation in the recent years. So this is about 2 decades after the crisis. What has been the effect of collectivization on tea marketing and prices received by STGs? And then one thing that has happened in recent years, though there has been no price crash, there is no growth in prices. So the prices have remained stable for a lot of years, except COVID time, where the prices went up from 15 to some 35 rupees. Otherwise, prices have remained pretty much stable. So in that context, so if prices are going to remain stable, costs are going up. So how have they tried to reduce the cost? So the marketing part is, this collectivization could help in prices, but what are they doing to the cost? And one of the things that we found is the slow increase in mechanization. So what is this mechanization doing to this place, and what are the implications of mechanization to farm labor, particularly female farm labor in the region? So the primary data was collected from STGs in Nilgiris district in the year 2023. So this is the Nilgiris district, and the 5 tea producing blocks are the Skunda, Konnur, Kotagiri, Udagamandalam, and Gudalur. So we have chosen these 3 districts, Skunda, Konnur, and Kotagiri. Kotagiri and Konnur have similar kind of agroeconomic zone, we could say, similar kind of market and so on. And Kunda and Udagamandalam have somewhat similar, but the T-board people will not agree with it. So, but still, we were surveying, we could have done Udagamandalam again, but we chose these 3 blocks. And Gudalur is a completely different kind of agroeconomic zone, and with more this wildlife invasion and others. For this study, we just stuck to these 3 blocks. So in these 3 blocks, what we found was that because these self-help groups were critical, we got from T-board the registered self-help groups. So we found that 101 self-help groups were registered in these 3 blocks, and 4,000 members covering 2,800 hectares were there as these groups had so many members on paper. So what we decided was that we will choose 3 villages from each of these blocks where it's SHG, not STG. The SHG was started in 2011-12, one which started in 2013-15, and one where SHG was started after 2016. And to compare few other things, there will be one village we will select where there is no SHGs, and one village which will be a labor village. So there are 5 villages in each block, so 15 villages and 30 households from each of these villages, and we'll survey this 450 households. That is how we went about with the sampling. And then we finally surveyed 438 households, and this came to about 138 in Kotagiri, 161 in Kunnur, and 139 in Kunda. So first, if we look at the prices, yields and revenue, what we observe is that unlike this 2000 kilo per hectare, I think that was or acre that in 2005, the yields have got much better. Now we are looking at something like 4,500 kilo per acre. And the prices which were very poor at that time is now again about 16 to 17 rupees, and prices seem to be similar across all these blocks. So in terms of revenue per acre, this comes to about 70 to 80,000 across these 3 blocks. And the average land holding is about 1.8 acre. So they get about 1 lakh something through tea cultivation. And there are variations across these blocks too. The predominant cost is related to labor. And if you look at labor, there are differences in wages across blocks and also across operations. So if you look at, say, something like fertilizer application, typically men only do, but when women do, they get much lower wages. Plucking is typically done by women till recently, and there the wages vary. Kunda seems to have highest wages, but once again there, if men do plucking, they get much higher wages. Pruning, typically men do the work of pruning. Weeding is again very much segmented, and women do pruning, and when men do, they get much higher wages. So these are averages of the wages in those blocks, and this is and we can see there is, and I didn't put who works how much in each operation, but it's a highly segmented labor market with very gender-based wage differentiation. So the cost estimates, again, this is only paid out cost. We didn't take we didn't impute the family labor. If we take only the paid out cost, so it comes to about, say, 25,000 per acre, say 4,500 kilos, meaning about 5 to 6 rupees a kilo goes in the cost, and about 16, 17 is what they earn. And this is similar to what we get based on NSS, but few other studies estimate the cost to be around 12 to 13 rupees a kilo. So one possibility is that family labor imputation might be increasing these costs. So this is the net profit is about 50,000 per acre, and as I mentioned, 1.8 acres. So we are looking at about 90,000 net profits in a year from this tea cultivation. So again, as I mentioned, so if the prices are not changing, yield is not improving so much, and already we are in an oversupply situation. I don't think yield increasing is not going to be always increasing the revenue. So the farmers are forced to reduce the cost. That is the way they could increase profits. So in terms of finding, so one of the ways to reduce cost and also maintain price stabilization is this collective thing. So what we find is that even though the 9 SHG villages that I mentioned, then there were 3 non-SHG villages and 3 labor villages. In these 9 SHG villages, the memberships varied from 45% to 87%. Overall, if we see, about 60% of the farmers were members in self-help groups. So by design itself, we should have anticipated more, like this is coming to something like 60%. So one thing we find is that all these SHGs, they are all members seem to be giving leaves to the society. The society collects the leaves and then sells it to the bottle factory or the collection agent. And there are, if every member gives this leaf to the society, then the societies can perform better because they have much more robust bargaining power, knowing that they will get all the leaves to themselves. And what we find is that in Kotagiri, it is that all 100% of the members give all their leaves to the society. So these societies have reasonably high bargaining power, whereas in Kunnur, 82% sell all the leaves to the society, but in Kunda it is societies seem to be performing not so high, but one of the reasons is there are also other government-run cooperative societies, which may be one of the reasons why societies are not performing so well in Kunda. Most of them, the price realization, growers are reasonably satisfied, not like around 30% said that they are not happy with prices. But beyond these prices, the SHGs seem to be doing very little, like training and extension. About 18% of the members said they had done some training, but not remaining 80% or so. This is training particularly with relation to machine use. And there were also complaints regarding rejection of leaves, but which was again higher in Kunda. Like the society, once they take it to the society also can say that the quality of the leaves are not good, we will not take it. So around 32% had said that at some point in the last year in Kunda that their leaves were getting rejected. And beyond that, the society charges a certain amount, which seems to be 0.2 to 0.5 rupees per kg, but Kunnur seems to have a higher kind of collection charges that is there. And most of them also do the grading. They grade the leaves as high quality, medium quality and low quality as they collect these leaves. So again, just to go back on the value chain, is that the small tea grower now with society coming in has these options. The small tea grower can directly sell to the agent who comes to the village to collect leaves, or the small tea grower can sell to the cooperative factories, again without no intervention of the society, or the small tea grower can sell it to the society, which can then sell it to the bottle factory, or it can again give it to the agent who will send to the bottle factory, or the society can also sell it to the estate factory. And so this value chain now with the society and Inco factories, now these are two kind of collectives, and Inco factories have been there since 70s. This is the new intervention that has come post 2006, 2008. So now to see how many people are using these societies. So what we find is that across these 3 blocks, they either see, these are the varied ways in which they are selling their green leaves. They're either selling to one factory or more than one factory, or to the collection agent, or to the society in the village. And what we find is that 33% are those who are selling to only the society, and in which, again, as mentioned, Kotagiri seems to be doing much better with 57% selling to the society itself. More than one factory and society, again, Kunda, this is again indicating that people who are selling to the society are also selling to other factories, which is not happening in other places. And this INCOSERV is another cooperative society where, in Kunda at least, people seem to be selling to society and INCOSERV. So all of these varied channels now farmers are using, and about 48% of the farmers, growers, seem to be using society in some ways, either completely giving to society or giving to society when there is a particular quality, and going to some other options when there are these options don't exist. And if we look at prices based on varied channels, one thing we find is that the minimum, maximum, average, all these three prices they received in the year, there doesn't seem to be huge variations, except say when they give to a factory and society. There we see a very low price, but otherwise the prices don't seem to vary so much. I think more than the SHG membership, it seems that the price stabilization formula is working its way, where farmers seem to be getting somewhat similar prices across quality, across various marketing channels. Again, if we just put it as SHG member and SHG non-member, then we see that the differences in prices don't seem to be too much, like per kg. So the average price for a member is 17.5, for a non-member is 16.5. The minimum price is 14.3, which is 13.3 for non-member, and 21.7 is the maximum price, and 20.6 is the maximum price for a non-member. But only in Kotagiri, because they are able to collect lot more leaves from the members, there the price differences seem to be slightly higher. So these SHGs do, at least in one of the blocks, seem to be doing some increase of price. So, and if you think of say 2.8 rupees a kilo in a year, when they are producing 4,500 kilos, we are talking about increase in revenue of about 10,000 or so, which is a reasonable number. So if we look at SHG/societies, so they are, one way they are increasing the price is by selling to fewer factories. They have moved away from collection agents, and they are also dealing with estates, establishing contract farming type relationships. So they get slightly more stable prices, but not too different from non-members. No input sharing, they are not buying inputs as a collective. Few SHGs did that, they procured fertilizer, in which case from the say price, so when we discussed with them, say if the price is 19 rupees, 15 rupees was paid upfront, the 3 rupees was left for fertilizer procurement. A lot of governance and trust issues with who becomes the president, who is the secretary, what do they do with these margins and all, particularly in Kunda SHGs. Again, mechanization through SHGs, when we went in 2020, that time they were not doing so well, and there were these huge machines which were called two-man machine. And plucking is always a women's job till then, but the machine used to be called two-man machine. But that machine was difficult to use. So the SHGs got these machines, and they were just lying without much functionality. And so this was the context we saw with these collectives. But when we went back in 2022, we did observe that their focus now, so they kind of found that this price increase is not going to be great with these SHGs. It is stable, but it's not going to go up because the auction prices are not going up. So, but there was new trends in mechanization that was happening. I think Sachu will discuss a bit on the mechanization and what are the factors that were influencing mechanization.
moving forward with our research findings, I am going to present the aspects, the machine usage in the Nilgiris. So why is mechanization important is that we all know, we have seen tea cultivation is labor intensive. Okay, almost all the activities in tea cultivation, the laborers are involved throughout the year. And among the different activities, tea leaf plucking require more laborers compared to other activities. And this tea leaf plucking is mainly done by female laborers. So, and one of the problem that the growers used to say to us is that there is unavailability of laborers during the peak season. So because of the increasing labor cost and unavailability of the labor during the peak season, they are trying to shift from the manual laborers to mechanization. And this is a gradual shift. And also, for doing mechanization in tea, there should be some plantation structures that if we are using a machine and using a machine to pluck tea leaves, that it will automatically pluck the leaves that it doesn't see whether it is fine plucking or not. Fine plucking means that decides the quality of leaf. Fine plucking means 2 leaf and 1 bud. Okay. If we are doing manually, we will see and do it. If machine is doing, it will pluck whatever coming to it front. So that means uniform height of a tea bush is very important when we are using machinery. So those who are adopting machinery in leaf plucking, it's better to have a well-managed tea garden. Okay, that uniform height, it is a major factor that decides the quality of leaves. So for this plantation structure and all, for maintaining the good plantation, the small tea growers might not, majority of them may be using the difficult. So this collectives like self-help group can help the farmers to know how this machinery can be adopted. So this collective can help in helping the farmers in adopting the machineries. And this is one story. The another story is that if growers are replacing the labor, female laborers, those who are plucking the leaves with the mechanization, what will happen? That will displace their employment opportunity. That is another story. And here you can see this is the battery operated tea plucking machine, and this is very handy. From seeing this, we will be able to know that it's lightweight with 1.5 to 3 kg, and a battery is attached to it. And once it's charged, this can be continuously operated from 3 to 12 hours based on the model. Okay. If a grower is using this battery operated tea plucking machine, he can actually replace 3 to 5 laborers, which means if a manual labor is plucking a leaf in the garden, he can pluck approximately 30 to 50 kg of leaves per day. But if he is using machine, if a grower is using machinery instead of labor, the leaf plucking per day is 200 to 400 kg. So this itself shows the efficiency of machine. And compared to other big agricultural machineries, this is very cost effective. The approximate cost is between 13,000 to 16,000. And as I said, the major problem with this machine usage is with the leaf cutting, with the bush size. If the plantation is not well maintained, the machine will cut the leaves or twigs, and that will damage the leaf and will affect the quality. So moving forward, we will see the mechanization among small tea growers in Nilgiris. Here we have categorized into adopters and non-adopters, and we can see that among the total respondents, 17.6% 17.6% are adopting mechanization in Nilgiris. And in this 17.6, majority are from Kunda block, that is 13.1, followed by Kunur, and Kotagiri is having a negligible share in the mechanization. And when we look into the characteristics of adopters and non-adopters, here we can see the socioeconomic characteristics that average age of adopters is 57 years, which is slightly higher than the non-adopters. And the education level is degree and above for adopters. And the average holding size is between 3 and 4 for both non-adopters and adopters. And then comes the acreage, land size. This is one of the major variables that determine the adoption. Here you can see the adopter is having the higher acreage of 2.4 acre compared to non-adopters. So when we look into the inherited tea garden means when we asked a question to the respondents that what is the age of the tea bushes, they were not able to answer. They were telling that they got this tea garden from their ancestors. So this variable shows that the gardens that are inherited from their previous generation. Here when we compare the adopters and non-adopters, we can see that 86% of the tea gardens that adopters have, that they got from the ancestral. Then comparing the consumption expenditure, adopters had the highest consumption expenditure per month. And when we look into the role of female in the tea leaf plucking, we can see that for the adopters and non-adopter category, both are having the higher percentage. This shows that women are highly involved in the plucking of tea leaves. And when we look at the use of motorized tools, we can see that the share is lower in both adopter and non-adopter category, but little bit higher in the case of adopters. And this is another variable, that is the women wages in plucking. This is one of the factors that determines the adoption. You can see for the adopter, we might be knowing that as the wage increases, what growers will do? Growers will try to shift to some labor-saving technologies. Here, in the adopter category, women wage is higher, that is rupees 308 per day compared to non-adopters. Next comes the Ubasi method of planting. Ubasi method of planting is nothing but it is the modern method of planting. There are two types of planting, that is traditional and Ubasi. In Ubasi method, they are cultivating more of the modern clones, and the spacing between the gardens, spacing between the bushes are well maintained, and the height also well maintained. It's modern type of planting means it's a well maintained garden. That is the Ubasi. So that if the growers are following the Ubasi method of planting, there is an advantage of better adoption of machinery in that plantation. So when we compare the adopters and non-adopters, we can see that 25% of the adopters are having Ubasi method of planting. And when we see the cooperative, that is self-help group membership among adopters and non-adopters, among the total non-adopters, 81% are STG members, whereas in the adopters it is 25%. And when we see the membership and non-membership, STG membership and non-membership of adopters and non-adopters, we can see that in adopter category, the majority of the respondents are having the STG membership. That is 70% of the adopters are having STG membership, whereas the non-adopters, it's 53%. So when we look into the block-wise characteristics, again the mean age is higher in the adopters for all the blocks, and the education category, adopters in Kunur and Kunda is having degree and above, And the household size is between 3 to 4 for the adopters and non-adopters in all the blocks. And the land size is higher for the adopters in all the 3 blocks. And the inherited tea garden, in all the blocks except Kotagiri, the adopters are having inherited tea garden, whereas it is opposite for the Kotagiri. And in expenditure, consumption expenditure, the adopters are having the highest consumption expenditure per month in Kotagiri and Kunda, but it is opposite in Kunur. And the female participation in plucking in all the non-adopters and adopter for all the 3 blocks, the female participation in plucking is higher. And the use of motorized tool by women, it's lower in all except in Kunda. You can see the women is in non-adopter category is using more of the motorized tools. Then come to the women wages in plucking. This is one of the important variable. We can see that in all the 3 blocks, the adopters are having the higher wage rate per day. But when we look at the Kunda, we can see the Kunda adopter are having the highest rupees of 320 per day for the plucking of leaves. And then comes the modern method of planting. All the adopters are adopting. All the adopters in the 3 blocks are using the modern method of planting compared to the non-adopters. And the membership also, it's lower in the case of Kotagiri and Kunur, whereas in the Kunda, 44% of adopters are having the SHG membership. So when we look into the role of women in tea cultivation, as we cannot separate the women labor from the tea cultivation because they involved in almost all the activities, the major activities in the tea cultivation. And when we look into the different activities, we can see that for the plucking of leaves in a tea garden, 80% of it is done by women. Rest 20 is done by men in the Nilgiris. Whereas the next operation is the weeding that shows the highest. It is 66% of the weeding operation in Nilgiris is done by women. And when we consider the motorized tool and non-motorized tool, we can see that women are more likely to use the non-motorized tools like sickles. They are using 72%. And in the case of motorized tool, men is using the motorized tool, that is 81% of the men, 81% of the use of motorized machine is by men. So coming to the factors of machinery adoption for tea leaf plucking. So here we used a probit model. Why we used probit is that our dependent variable is binary, and that dependent variable is the growers who use machine, and the other is the growers doesn't use machine. Here from the model statistics, we can see that this model is highly significant. And when we compare the different factors, first we look into the socioeconomic factors, and here we can see that age, education or household size are doesn't show any significance towards the machinery adoption. Then when we see the land size, here we can see that land size is having positive impact on machinery adoption. That means as the land size increases, that automatically increases the machine adoption for tea leaf plucking. And when we look into the inherited tea garden and consumption expenditure, these 2 variables doesn't have significance with the machine adoption. And coming to the female roles, mainly with the female participation in plucking and women usage of motorized tool, both have negative effect, which means female participation in plucking that have a negative effect of, that means that decreases the machine adoption by 11%, 10.9%. Whereas the women who uses the motorized tool increases, that actually decreases the machine adoption by 9%. 0.9 or 10%. Then this is one of the key variable that determines the mission adoption. As the women wages in plucking increases, that increases the missionary adoption for tea leaf plucking by 66%. And next is the modern method of planting. This also have positive effect in the machine adoption, and STG membership is also having the positive effect. So as when we see the regional differences, comparing to the first block, that is the Kotagiri, Kunur and Kunda is having the higher machine adoption, and among the 3 blocks, Kunda is having the higher machinery adoption for tea leaf plucking. So among the different factors, female participation and women using the motorized tools are negatively affecting the machinery adoption, whereas land size, women wages in plucking, and modern planting material, and also the STG membership, cooperative membership, are positively influencing the use of machinery by the small tea growers. As we have seen, mechanization in Nilgiris is gradually growing, and currently they are having nearly 17 to 18% of machine adoption. And this machine adoption is highly concentrated in Kunda, and the key driver for the machine adoption is the wage. As the wage of women in plucking increases, that automatically increases the machine adoption by the growers. And this machine adoption, actually, what will happen? As I said at the start, if the growers are shifting towards the machinery adoption, that will displace the women employment. So there should be an apt policy, or that should consider the mechanization for efficiency in the tea cultivation, as well as where the women employment have to go. So with this, I'm stopping. Now I'm inviting Thiagu sir to continue with the policy implications and to summarize. Thank you.
Thanks, Sachu. So to put broadly whatever we have found, like mainly one thing is that now tea is grown by small tea growers, and its efficiency wise they seem to be doing better. They're also seemingly got over the profitability crisis by stabilizing prices, increasing and reducing costs. And collectivization has not made a huge difference, but still at least it is helping in stabilizing prices. And mechanization means slowly the costs were going to come down in this region. So the new battery operated machines, one part of why mechanization is increasing is because previous to these small machines, which were 1.5 kilo, there were these 20 kilo machines which 2 people had to go and pluck. So starting from 2018, these machines started coming in the region. 2021 is when some subsidies are given, and now machines are being used because it's easy to use. So and 86% of the machine users thought that their quality improved with machines. 98% were satisfied for time saving and higher quality. But there are gendered implications. If you see, previously tea means women will be plucking. Now when these machine advertisements, even in advertisements, women don't pluck teas. It's always the men who will be plucking from these things. So, and 84.5% of the samples, these respondents, they said either hired male or family male were operating machines. And maintenance of machine, because that also, it was typically men who took care of charging and other things. So charging and cleaning and other things. So machines, once they have come, it has become the domain of man and moved away from women's plucking is now coming down. There are certain issues related to maintenance and repair. There 48% of the machines had some breakdown, primarily to battery, blades, and there is a wire that connects battery to the machine that goes off, but they spend some 200 to 800 rupees for repairs. So this thing, there is some demand for minimum support price. That is not such a great thing, because this formula price seems to be doing better than the floor price for some reason, and certain other countries that experience seems to be meaning that it's better with the formula price. One problem is that a minimum price can also increase the supply of tea leaves, which can again have adverse effects on profitability of bottle leaf factories. So one option is also there is, given that the estates and plantation sector are not being so productive, and given that the small growers have figured out this profitability puzzle, it may be time to again lease the estate land to labor who are not having land. This may solve the problem of labor displacement and unproductive leaves. That is a possibility. But again, if productivity goes up and then there is oversupply, what is going to happen is not so clear. The thing about mechanization displacing female labor is that these laboring women are typically in different villages. It's like the training is given to small tea growers and sometimes women in small tea growers. But these are only family labor. The hired labor come from different villages, which are labor villages. Trainings are never conducted there. So this implies, and some of the labor women whom we visited, they had not got hold of these machines. So the family women labor, also there is a reduction, but still at least some usage is there. But with the hired women labor, there is no such. So the trainings that the tea board conducts should be probably in the segregated villages also. So this segregation is a big problem everywhere, and in this particular case, this seems to be diverting energy in a different way. So the men, when we looked at employment, men seem to be going to non-farm, like most of them becoming drivers in the Dalit villages, but women who are involved in agri labor, they are not trained with these machines. So this training tea board should do so that the losses are not huge. And if land redistribution of these estates is a possibility, that is something, it is important, if not redistribution, at least leasing options should be considered. These are what we can infer from what we found, and yeah, these are just emerging trends. Maybe we go back after say 2-3 years and see what is currently happening. That may be useful to know. Yeah, that's all we had to say. Yeah.
So thank you very much, Professor Thiagu and Dr. Sachu, for that lucid as well as very interesting presentation on the issue of small tea growers and formation of STGs and mechanization as such. Right. The key takeaways, I think, so for me it was about, yes, STG formation does help, but not necessarily in kind of resolving all the livelihood issues that are there. It may be somewhat supportive of the price for price stabilization as such, but a phenomenon that is parallelly going on is the mechanization phenomenon, not necessarily connected with the small SRG formations itself. So parallelly we have something else happening over there, and that has got implications of a various different type, mainly with regard to, of course, it seems to be increasing yield, productivity, but at the same time it seems to be displacing specific types of labor also. That's very interesting to finding this thing. So now I have a few comments, but we'll come back after taking few questions and comments from the floor, both offline and online. There are a few participants online as well. So requesting both online and offline participants to make their interventions right now. Yeah. If you have any questions, you can raise your hand. Anyone in the floor over here? Any questions to be raised? Yeah. I think you guys can come here, please. Sure. We'll take one round of questions and then you can answer, and then yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Thiagu sir and Dr. Sachu. It was a very interesting presentation. My one observation was regarding when you did this comparison of non-adopters and adopters. The characteristics, they were almost similar. And I think a number of farmers were also similar in both 57 and 50, if I remember correctly. And the number of labor hired among non-adopters, it was high. Some 200 plus women had been hired. And among adopters, I think the number was very low. Some I don't remember correctly. Some 10, less than 10, or I'm not sure, or maybe we could go back to that slide.
How do you bring it back?
No.
You can, yeah.
This one table where you compared adopters and non-adopters.
That's participation.
Machine.
Mechanization.
Yeah, this one, right?
This, okay, N is the number of farmers here. Okay. Yeah, so here you can see my doubt is regarding the women's wage point. Okay. So, like sir mentioned earlier, because of this, I think the quantity is becoming like 3 or 4 times quantity of output. But then like the wage increase here is not that much. Like it is 284 for non-adopter, like manual plucking, and 308 for
So you're telling with the comparison of the different
quantity.
activities.
Yeah, but then the increase in wage is not that high. But then in your next slide where you're not here, that regression that you're doing, here it is coming that women's wage in plucking is positively correlated with adoption. So my doubt is this like a reverse thing also? Like, is it like women's, like if the wage is rising, then the chance of me as a grower going for a machine is higher? Or is it like a woman, like a person, as they gain the skill to use this equipment, their
The
wage is going up?
Opposite one. As the wage increases, the growers adopting, because this the plucking is the major operation in the tea cultivation. So as the wage rate increases,
The chance of going for
the labor cost will increase, and this will automatically.
Okay.
This is the average wage in the village.
Okay.
It's not the individual household what they are paying. This is the wage in the village.
Okay.
So for plucking manually, that average in the sample we have taken as the wage. And so if the village wages are going up, then, and if somebody is there, they are likely to adopt more. In the individual case, what you're saying is reverse causality will be there, but we took the village average.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, Vijay.
Thank you, sir. It was a nice presentation. Sir, I wanted to ask clarificatory questions. Also, you mentioned in your presentation that this is about the small tea grower. Small tea growers. So, sir, I was reading one of the book by Jasmine. In the plantation, he mentions that there is a lot of migrants from Odisha and Jharkhand also there. So is this component not there? I mean, this particular district, or also you mentioned you talk about the labor village. But exactly, if there is the small tea grower is all because of the land holding size. I interpreted that way. So why this particular district is a bit different from what Jaslin Raj talked about, like Idiki or somewhere. Thank you.
No, Jayasilan's thing is in plantations. Can I respond? But this is so there. What is happening is that you sit maybe.
I think we'll take more because
okay. Then
everyone will. The online people also can hear. Otherwise,
Thank you for the presentation, sir. Sir, I don't have that much knowledge of the tea plantation, but is there like a grading system in a tea plantation? Are they getting how much difference is like a grade 1 or like a grade B? Is there a difference? Or in a market channel, like how much quantity, like which channel they are preferring? Like a cooperative, there is like a difference, grading wise difference. Maybe high grading they are getting a higher price. Maybe food processing are paying also high price. But in a lower grade, maybe there is like a huge price difference. Is there any?
Yeah, one more.
Also about the crop loss, sir. Because as you mentioned that new technology, like if man is efficient, they can pluck the 30 to 50 kg like per day maximum. In a machine, when they introduce, they are talking 200 to 400 kg. There is a huge gap between. Also, in this mechanism, like if man will pluck, there will be a high chance like they will pluck like a high quality kind, but there is a crop loss in that when they will use a machine. Is there any contest?
This is a very nice presentation. And my question is, in the econometrics part, the regression analysis says that whenever there is increase in women's wages, it is leading to adoption of mechanization. And in the descriptive part, you have shown the otherwise, like whenever the mechanization is happening, whenever the
Adopters.
the adapters are going. So it seems like there is some reverse causality of thing, right? Mechanization is impacting the labor use, and the labor use is also impacting the mechanization. And I'm not sure whether this is under the scope of this project or not. So if the women are getting displaced, then who are those women and where are they going after displacement? So that's my question.
Yeah, can we just take one round of responses and then we'll come back? Okay. Thiagu, can you come here because the online people also can see you. Yeah.
Yeah, for Vijay's question. So this is not plantations. These are like these are just farmers. But in Tamil Nadu, the villages are segregated. Dalits live in separate, in this case, at least in these places, distinctly separate villages. And Dalits are the ones who come as laborer to these villages where, so the Badgas are the main community here who grow tea leaves. So they are the farmers who are growing vegetables, now have shifted to tea growing. The landless labor is in different village. So that is the Dalit village. And from there, laborers are coming here. That is what how it is working. So it's like they were previously growing, unlike plantation, where within a plantation everything is there, labor colonies are there, labor things are there. Here it is, it's just like say previously carrot, tomato growers have started growing tea now. But the farm labor is living in separate village. They are coming from there to provide labor here. And some migration there. At least when 2022, we didn't see much migration in the places we went to, but that can also happen. Like the labor who come from Jharkhand for estate labor, they can also do this labor. They may, because if they are put in contract, they don't get to stay within the plantation. So they will stay in the city or town, and then they can do labor to the plantation or these farmers. Both they can provide. So that can also happen because the Dalit villages, men are going out to becoming primarily drivers. That is the labor we saw. So they are not, few of them, not everyone is into agri. Women were into agri labor, but men are migrating to become in some other labor. On this grading, grading is an important thing because tea quality, the price they get is for grading. So the ideal thing is that they want these 2 leaves and a bud, they say. That is the quality leaf. And if it is plucked at that time, okay. Is it? No, it's not getting clear. Where is that? Yeah. Fine. Let me. So there are these. So in some places they could give us A grade and B plus and B. 3 grades they say. So coarse, or sometimes they call this 2-leaf and a bud and coarse leaves. So based on the quality, they get price. The important thing about quality is like plucking at the right time. So the tea leaves keep growing, and within, so typically they say 15 days or 10 days, you have to pluck. At that time, that leaf will be good for for making tea. And again, there are 2: lean season and peak season. In peak season, there is lot of leaves that come 6 months a year. So then they need to pluck this once in 15 days. And in the lean season, not all the yield will be lower. So that time they can pluck for lower once in 20 days. That's how they presume. So what you are saying is true, that when we do machines, so machines can, in a peak season where there is lot of leaves, that time machines are good. In the lean season, when you do that, when leaves are less, so when the machine is used to cut, along with leaves, there are these sticks and all come in. So that is, so currently the farmers we interviewed, some of them said in peak season, because the yield is high, they will use machines. In lean season, they will use family labor. So the labor will get displaced, but it is in a lean season, they are not using machine. Some of them are doing that way. So machine can affect quality of leaf. That problem is there, but not in all part of the year, only in lean season. And this men's labor being high quality, I don't think so. It is more this selective. Again, with experience, women are good at selective plucking. So to pluck these two leaves and a bud also, this wage cannot be justified for quality. In machine, actually, it's just that machine means we associate with men. So once till that time, no, all tea plucking is about women. Even the shears, mostly it was women. Now once this motorized machine, that was also in some ways machine, but this motorized machine comes, then we see men. That is how I see. And this wage rates is not the wage rate of the household. This is the wage rate in the village, average wage rate in the village. So that cannot be reverse causality. No? And the individual adoption and village average wage is what we took. So less likely to be reverse causality. If we take the same household, then it is very likely. But still, even with this, there is a possibility of reverse causality. If in the village there are more people adopting, so because of which wages have gone up, that is possible. But intuitively this correlation is there, at least. There is this correlation. The technique, Upasi technique is also telling us something about how it is. But this wage, we will look into it. We am also not sure of. I think, what is that? The other thing, this about women who get displaced. So this displacement, it's a temporal thing. At this stage, we don't know whether there were people working and who got displaced. Right. Only thing we know now is that if I look at the people, men and women labor, men doing non-farm is much more who are migrating also. Women are predominantly only in agri labor. Now, then this means if we go back 2-3 years later, then we may know. But the fact that they are not doing other things, meaning there would have been women who did agri labor, are now doing nothing. So that is what I said, the stunted structural transformation is happening here. Like overall economy, when mechanization happens, jobs may be created somewhere. But for that particular local economy, now women are losing jobs. So this is happening, is what I feel. And they cannot shift to non-farm so easily. But men can shift. Men have become drivers and other things. So, and particularly, that is the concern. And that is where some extra effort T-Board might put to train these women labor. So benefits of structural transformation is very relevant to skill. So skill, if it is not equalized, then it is going to only create further inequalities. So that is how I see. So, yes, sir. Sir, Soundarajan, sir, how are you? You have a question? Hello.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Yes, sir.
Thanks
Good
for the
afternoon, sir.
presentation. Yeah.
Yes.
Hope I'm audible now.
Yes, sir, very much.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I have 3 points.
Sir.
One is on your final suggestion way forward. You have written about you talked about MSP. MSP is counterproductive. Uh, but your study was mainly on focusing on the mechanization, SSG, and all. What made you come to the conclusion that MSP is counterproductive? That is one. Second is again on the restructuring of the estates. You said that land has to be restructured to small tea growers or leasing out or something like that. Again, your study was on only small tea growers. So how are you suggesting the organized garden to bifurcate the area and lease it out? That is second. Because you have not studied that at all. Even if you have studied, that is a privately owned gardens. Ownership is privately, so it is far from reality that it will be leased out. Okay. Then third point is your opening remarks. You said Sri Lanka has got 95% of small tea growers. So that data seems to be wrong. That's all. Yeah.
Okay, sir. Sir, yeah, sir. One is this MSP point that I made on this being possibility of being counterproductive. Yeah, this what I am saying is like one is this price stabilization has stabilized the prices and farmers are getting prices. This demand that seems to be coming based on our cost estimates also is that the MSP that is being demanded, if we give, say if it is like, and that is irrespective of the auction price. That is where my thing is that I'm not basing primarily from my study. This is, I'm just putting the Sri Lankan experience where they had something called as floor price from 1969 to 84. And then from 1985, they went to this formula price. And we have followed learning from Sri Lanka and Kenya to set up this formula price. And after the formula price has been set, they are not keeping the floor price. Now, in this context, like if we decouple the auction price with the green leaf price, my only, this is not directly flowing from this, but it might affect bottle factory profit in a different ways. That is my contention, sir. In that case, and given that cost reduction is happening through mechanization, do we have to give that guarantee? Maybe I'll put it in a more tentative manner rather than telling that. I'm also saying it may be. I'm not saying it will be. I'm saying in terms of profitability crisis, reducing cost is better than increasing prices or giving a very high stable price. That is my contention, sir. The second part about restructuring, my thing is that what I'm drawing is that the profitability crisis seems to be averted by these STGs in a way that is now for a reasonable period of time. There is some ways in which the profitability crisis has been averted. In that case, the mechanization is going to bring in only troubles to the labor households. We didn't present more about the labor's consumption and their employment patterns. Given that context, if labor could get land from, and the productivity of estates being so low and STGs being more profitable, can we make some of the laborers lease in land and become producers? And maybe it shouldn't be, it needn't be from the estates. Maybe that I can reduce because, yeah, I don't draw, I cannot say that because as you mentioned, it may not be such a politically easy thing to be doing. So that I take that, sir. I will modify it, but just say that labor households, if they can lease in land, that will be useful. From where is something, my thing was that one possibility is the estate. That is all was my thing. With Sri Lanka thing, it is not 95% are STG. From the paper that I saw, which was written in 2009, they said 95% of the production comes from STGs in Sri Lanka. This was a 2009 paper. Based on that, I am saying the data, sir. Maybe if things have changed, I have not updated, but the thing that I saw was telling that 95% of the production of tea comes from sourced from the STG thing. And I think the paper's name also I had said. It was by this Herath and Veer Singh, 2009. They were the ones who had spoken about vertical integration and reduction, and in that context, they had mentioned it at that time, sir.
Okay, to my understanding, it is around 60% of the area is small tea growers, and almost 70% production is by small tea growers. That is how the Sri Lankan plantation structure is. My only point was, you are presenting a study, report of a study, and you have assumed something which has not come out of your study. That is that drawing the big growers, because you have not studied their structure, that whether this will benefit them or not benefit them, you have not studied. So you have assumed certain things and drawn conclusion. That was my point. And also MSP also is, you have not studied their cost structure, how, whether that particular point was not your area of study at all, MSP. So whether MSP will be counterproductive or not, I feel there should be a separate study whether MSP will be counterproductive or not. This is drawing conclusion from this will be far-fetched.
Okay, sir. Yeah. Sir, we'll reduce, we will revise that, sir. Yeah. If it is that way, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, sir. Yeah, Mr. Pankaj.
Hello, sir. Am I audible?
Yeah, Pankaj.
Hello, sir. It's nice to see you again. I met you when I was there in Series around a year back. So my question is, when you talk about the laborers are laid off due to the mechanization. So my question is, once the mechanization comes due to the shortage of labor, right? So when a part of labor, a part of gardens stop using laborers, is that possible that another gardens or small tea growers are using laborers to produce quality leaves and getting better price? Number one. Number two, in many situations, it's been seen a number of small tea growers has been becoming the final producers, like mini factory or handmade tea and all. You does not come across those situations which otherwise have shown that the variability in price and cost, which will increase for producing quality leaves, but the return will be as better compared to using mechanized tools. And other hand, if some growers becoming small producers themselves, they will have better market integration than toggling around the factories and agents, which are multiple in many senses.
Thank you, Pankaj. These mini factories, I did come across few of the mini factories, and they seem to be doing either organic tea or sometimes handcrafted tea, and Tea Board was very much involved in supporting them and coming up with new kinds of tea. But yeah, as a large scale solution, that didn't seem much. So we saw like 1 or 2, 3 case studies. Something called as White Turban was there, which was some group of women who were making this specialized tea, and then there was something other kinds of tea, so which are like made in low quantity but high prices they fetch, and that is there. But as a move for all of these growers to that kind of high value tea, I'm not so. There's so few in nature that I'm not sure whether that is something that everybody should aspire to be, or say is feasible to make that kind of a transition. That's my thing. And what was their other question? That is that, right? Specialty tea.
No. And the other was, once the labor shortage, the laborers are laid off. Yes.
No, it's like labor availability. They do mention it as a crisis in season times. So there is a lean, and as I told, it's lean and the peak season. Sometimes in peak season there is a labor shortage, they say. But that's like, again, like if it is the case, the women labor, are not doing other labor. The men are the ones who are taking up non-farm sector. If you look at women labor, they are primarily in agri labor. So
Yeah.
one is, I think part of it may be in pockets where there may be labor availability concerns, but the other incentive to use this is the higher productivity and their time saving thing. So people are using because you need to labor means also more number of days, like so you can reduce it by 1/4. So people are wanting to use like machines. So these 20 days of picking could get over in say 5 days, and
Yeah.
that is also like you can also do timely picking and so on. So and which again improves quality, you get higher price. So there are varied reasons why people are using machines. It was not only labor availability is what we felt, and also they had mentioned the reasons for doing. So they were saying time saving was the most predominant reason. So
Yes, sir. So I have
huh.
one more clarification to make. The
Yeah.
machine plucking increases the yield, but not the quality, as per my understanding. And number two is there are some plucking machines, which the battery plucked machines, they are operated not only by men but also by women.
Yeah, so one thing about quality is that again these two seasons come in. In the
Yeah.
peak season, it doesn't affect much of the quality when there is lot of leaves. When there is that is from what people said, and they were
Okay.
not saying that is not a concern so much in the peak season. Only in the lean season, when they use the machines, then at that time it may also take the stock of the leaf, and so overall
Yes.
quality comes down. So that they said, so what they do, some of the households that were doing was that they were doing in peak season they were using machine, in the lean season they were using family labor. That is
Okay.
how they were going about. And you asked something else, huh? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, small hand plucking, those battery operated machines
The
operated
battery,
can
no,
both
so
men and
these are
women.
all battery operated, which can be
Yeah.
used by women. So what we found is that still it is like there is in most houses where they were using, about most of them now are family male who were using it.
Okay.
It's not like women don't use at all. Female are also using it. It's not like they are not using it, but that proportion is very less. And the other thing I also highlighted is that this is like the tea growers who buy the machines. So then women in the household are also using, but the labor are not labor. There was very little labor, the particularly hired female. So sometimes they buy the machine and they hire a male to pluck the leaves, but
Okay.
they typically were not hiring women when it had to be machine operated. It's not like it can be operated by women. That is where this becomes even more important, that training be given to women labor, who then and say maybe formation of labor collective or something, where then they can provide this machine plucking service. And
Okay.
you're absolutely right. This machine is 1.5 to 3 kg, then women can easily use it. So
Yeah.
then women labor, if they are given exposure, they will be able to use it. And this is like given the falling labor force participation in general, they should be actively given training and made this skill as a skill, and they should be using it, is what is the idea I'm saying. But in general, there doesn't seem to be any impetus from anybody to make this happen. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Yeah. There is another question. Yeah. T-board zonal office. Yes. Uh,
Professor Thiagu,
yeah.
am I
Hello.
audible? I'm Dr.
Yes.
How did you classify the villages as labor willing?
So what we did was that the list of this village, that is the SHG villages, that we got from T-board, because T-board had this data of 101 villages, and we randomly chose from each of these blocks, as I mentioned, based on aging, and then classified this villages with SHGs. Then the survey, in our case, I think there was a RA who went there, and in those villages, they then checked a nearby village which did not have a SHG, and a nearby village which was providing labor to these villages. And that's so the choice of village first was the only the SHG village which was randomly chosen. But then the non-SHG and the labor village was not random sampling because we don't know ex ante, we don't have a list of labor villages. So this is how we went about it.
Because there is no definite classification of labor villages in Nilgiris, so that's why this question arose.
Ah, yeah, there is no such classification. So yeah, it is not. Yeah, it is just like so. That is where in that village we went. So then, where the labor comes from, then we chose that village and that village. And if we look at land owning status of the sample in that village, very few people had leased in land, but otherwise there was no land. So in these labor villages, so
And
in
about
that
Dalit
sense,
villages,
this is Tamil Nadu.
you
We are very much more peculiar to Tamil Nadu. It may not be the
so you
case
have
in all
mentioned about
states. Uh,
Dalit villages.
yeah.
Okay, was those villages classified as labor village?
No, because we didn't know whether it was a Dalit village or not. We went to the SHG village, the Badga villages, which were, and then we asked them, where does the labor for tea, where do you hire the labor for tea? And then we chose those villages. And yeah, in terms of data, most of them were Dalits. But we didn't choose a Dalit village, we chose like labor village.
Okay, thank you.
Which,
And
yeah.
moreover, regarding this mechanized harvesting, actually your study period was around 2019 to 2023, and you have arrived at, you have finalized your report by the year 2023. Am I right?
Yes, yes. 22 is the data we are using for the mechanization. So we asked them in 2022, did they use data? Did they use machines?
From 2020, from 2022 to till date, there was a huge rise in the usage of mechanized machinery in Nilgiris
Okay.
with the help of input subsidy. So this data you have to revise, I think, before you submit the final report.
Okay, okay. Yeah, is this Uma? Hello.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, Uma. Yeah. I will get back on the number. So 22 is what we took, like in the 23 thing. Maybe we'll. I don't know. We can't update. We can only mention that year. This is to 22. It is not here. But we can survey later and update based on. Yeah, maybe we can revisit some of these households. That is possible. But and is this village classification right? You can tell better. I thought some zonal office means somebody from Calcutta. So, but this classification reasonable, Uma? The way we did.
No, I think we have to revisit that classification. I would suggest that.
Okay, fine. So, anyways, we'll send the list of the
We
villages
can
and
have a
then you can.
discussion. Yes.
Okay.
No,
Uma.
we can have a discussion later on after this.
ठीक है. Okay. Yeah.
Within
Yeah, anyway, I think Uma provided all the STG list and all that SSG list and all. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah. Yeah, any other questions? Shakuntala, kuch tha?
I just wanted to know the working hour of women in those who are like involving in blocking, total working hour in a day, and the age and experience of that women, because some part of like India, their wages is based on the how much like leaf they have block. So.
Yeah, the hours I didn't note, but the two wages are there. One is per day wage, which ranged from 250 to 350 across region in that year. But the other thing is what you said, they give 6 rupees a kilo. If they whatever they pluck, they get 6 rupees a kilo. And now the way laborers, when they prefer that, because 6 rupees a kilo, they can even pluck 100 kilos of leaf. So then they get 600 rupees. So that way, but if it is per day, they don't get more than 350, maximum maybe 400. They don't get more than that. And yeah, that is the, so that thing is there. Per kilo is also there, but not so used well, like, yeah. Yes, it's
Yeah, if there are no more questions, we will close the session now. Thank you very much, Dr. Thiagu, Professor Thiagu and Dr. Sachu for this presentation and responding to all the comments that was made. Thank you all the participants, especially from the T-Board, Dr. Soundarajan and the other members from the TV board. Thank you very much for participating and giving valuable comments. I'm sure Professor Thiagu will take all these comments and then get back to you with a more complete report at a later point, soon in the near future itself. And thank you all once again for participating. Thank you very much. We close this section now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.